Let me tell you how bad of a photo booth owner I used to be. I'm talking about all of the mistakes that I used to do when I first started, so you guys don't have to make these mistakes. Mistake number one was trying to find the cheapest equipment. I wasn't looking at quality. I wasn't looking at equipment that was going to make my life easier. I literally had the world's worst printer. It was a printer I bought off of OfferUp for about $80. Inkjet printer. It took about 2 minutes to print. You had to wait 30 seconds after it printed because it was ink to let it dry. It was a nightmare. And one thing I learned was in the search of being cheap, of finding these cheap items, it ended up being really expensive. So for instance, that printer that I used, even though it was $80, it cost me about 5 to 6 times just to use it. Ink was expensive, paper was expensive, and again, not to mention of how slow and unreliable that was. So if I can go back, I would definitely invest in really good quality. And if you're having a problem with like justifying spending top dollar for good things, ask yourself this: how long do you plan on being in business? And if the answer is pretty much forever, then it becomes a lot easier to spend your money on things. So investing in quality products was probably the first mistake I made. Another really big mistake I made was not making long-term moves for my business. When I first started, right, Uncle Drew was like 21 years old, just happy to be at parties, get a free drink, and just have fun. I didn't see myself being in business longer than a year or two, right? Because when you're young, you think life is forever. So the first 3 or 4 years of my business was just me making moves to get the next booking. I was on Craigslist, I was on Craigslist, I was on Craigslist. That's pretty much how I got all of my jobs. But now looking back, guess what? Craigslist isn't a thing. So now I have 3 or 4 years of my life as a business owner with nothing to really show for it other than those past events that I've done. I didn't do any networking. I didn't even have my website, for God's sake. So I wish I would have gone back and then started to do things that would have benefited me now, like having my website up sooner, working on getting reviews on Google, building networking relationships. So it took me a while to understand that, but if you guys can understand that now, it's going to make your life a lot better. Another mistake I made was getting a business partner. When I first started my first rental business, one of my best friends and I had a conversation of doing this business together, and we started it together, and we didn't have to. We both had money to start the business. We both had the time. There wasn't something that he offered that I necessarily needed and vice versa. So for about a year and a half, we ran this business together. Super difficult because we didn't have clear roles, and we ended up just separating and starting our own businesses. But if I can go back in time, I'd be like, hey, you don't need a business partner. A mistake I made when I first started was picking the wrong name for my business. So now in the year 2025, it's very apparent that a good photo booth rental name should have the word photo booth in it. And if you can, attach a location to that name, so when people are actively searching for photo booth Hacienda Heights or photo booth North Carolina, that your name and your business, your website, is going to have better ranking just because you have those keywords in your name. Also, picking common names like Flicks or photo booth Memories, photo booth Capture. Stay away from those names, even though they sound cool, but just if it's a common name, you're leaving a chance for your business to be mistaken for another business. And I'd also pick a radio-friendly name, right? Something you can hear and remember. Another mistake I made early on in my business was jumping on trends a little too late. If I can go back, I would have bought my 360 photo booth as soon as I saw some motion happening. I was a little fearful. I saw it out. I saw a lot of people making money with it, and I just wasn't convinced it's going to be something that would have longevity. I'm not sitting here saying that the 360 booth is the most popular thing, but I've been around long enough to where I could have jumped on it when it first came out and probably be a few $100,000 richer. So going back and just seeing some trends and jumping on those trends a little bit early. And you guys, remember, if you're going to jump on a trend, and the 360 booth is a trend, it's not something that I think will have forever likability, but if you're going to jump on the trend, the best time to jump on it is while it's on the up, right? The worst time to jump on a trend is when you notice it's already going down. But yeah, definitely a mistake that I made. Another mistake that I made when I first started my photo booth rental business is doing my taxes on my own. I know some of you may have some knowledge of how to do this, but I think it's probably in your best interest to have a professional do it. And if you're doing like H&R Block, my advice would be find a CPA or an accountant that's also a business owner. Because looking back, I can look back at my taxes back in the day, and I definitely paid way too much in taxes. I didn't know every little write-off that I could do. So a good CPA will pay themselves fully. So find a good accountant for sure. And lastly, a huge mistake that I made when I first started was I didn't seek a mentor. Probably not for about 5 years into my business that I actively looked for somebody that was in a position where I wanted to be. Because back then, you guys, there was no Uncle Drew on YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram. No influencers making videos. I had to make mistake after mistake after mistake and learn. And the day I found a mentor was the day that everything became easier because I had a clear path and I had somebody to look up to. And, you know, when you're coming up with your own goals, your ideas and strategies, you can have confidence in yourself, but it's a lot easier to be taught and then have confidence in not just yourself, but in the person that's teaching you because they're already in a position you want to be. So I'm going to wrap this video up. I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. And speaking of mentorship, remember, if you guys buy a photo booth from my company, Photo Booth 101, you get me as a mentor. All of my customers have my phone number. I'm always helping out our crew. So that's photobooth101.com. But thank you guys so much for watching. God bless, and I'll see you soon. Take care.